Hey friend, what's up? May I try something new? But yeah, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Candice and I create Christian content through my life as a web designer and an illustrator. And today I'm going to be talking about the 5 things I've learned since starting over, since making this big faith move, since saying yes to my talents, since saying yes to God with believing in myself. Yeah. And for those of you who are new, pause the video and go to part 1 and 2 of my testimony videos just to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Right? You gonna go do that? All right, cool. So I have my notes ready. Yeah. Notes really because I'm not a script girl. Script, it's hard for me to read script. So I'm just talk from my head, but I write down my notes. Instead of me just ramble all over the place, let's just jump into the video and get started with number 1. So let's talk about it. One of the first things that comes to mind when I think about the process of how I started over was the fact that it is possible for you to change your mind, Candice. You now have to stick with what they say from the beginning if it not work out. Like it sound like it makes sense now, but like back then I tell myself like no, you say you have to do this, you have to do it. For example, when I started my nutrition consulting business, right? Yeah, there was a lot of success happening there, but as I did say in other testimony videos, it didn't feel like me. It was far from me. And I told myself, look, you have a degree in dietetics and nutrition, this is the only stuff for you. You can't do nothing else. And that was such a burden. Let me tell you, it was such a burden telling myself that no, you started this, you have to complete it. This is now your life forever. Forever what? And me serve God? No man. If you say, girl, what were you thinking to say that it is impossible to change your mind? I think one of the ways that I started to combat that idea, apart from incorporating God more in my life, but one of the things was to really focus on flexibility. I realized I was so rigid. I was so rigid in the way I approached things because it had to be black or white. And I just saw the world look, the world no look so like you can't all right, you see this life of entrepreneurship, there's no way you can have everything your way. There's going to be some moments when you give and take, and I've learned that, and it has showed me that, girl, some part in the journey you have to go realize that okay, what you said before now makes sense, so you have to make some adjustments so you can change your mind. And I learned to embrace flexibility. As somebody say, boy, if it not white, it did have to be black. And me not see how that. Me I look back from the candies in the past and like me I say, girl, what's wrong with you, man? What's wrong with you? That was a point in my life where productivity had a point where it stopped. It's because I wasn't flexible. At some point in whatever I did, there had to be some sort of decrease in production because me can't go with the flow. Me can't make adjustments as things change. It had to be how I saw it in the beginning, and it had to finish like that how I saw it in the beginning. And if anybody know, and I saw God work, this man is indifferent. That's all I can say. Is a different, man. So yeah, one of the first things I realize I can change my mind. There are things that I will have to learn how to adapt, and there are things that I may have thought would have been right in the first place, but it is total garbage when I realize when I'm in it knee deep, right? So, yeah, changing your mind is very possible, and you have to change your mind some point in time. It's not black and white. This one, yeah, it did after the panelists, like, yeah. You're gonna hear me say this was a struggle, but I feel like I pick out all the ones them that really stood out to me. So bear with me. This one, trust me, was such a headache because when I thought of starting over, changing my career to something totally different, I told myself I was too old. Like I was telling myself, like I had to just forget about this whole starting over. I'm too old for this. Me can't change my mind, number one. But I was telling myself, there's no way I have anything to start over with. Like, it's going to take too long because I've deviated for so long. I wouldn't have any skills or any understanding of just starting over, and that is just rubbish, 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 right? Redirection is not failure. Deviating from what God say is not failure in the sense that you can't return back to him or return to what he called you to be. Like, it's not failure. If anybody know God, that man will take trash and turn it into treasure. Am I tell you? Redirection was such a big thing for me because, as I said, I really thought like it was just hopeless for me. I've I've done 4 years to get this degree. I worked mostly in the hospital, then I worked in a factory, then I started a nutrition consulting business. There's no way I have the skills to start doing arts, start have the skills to start designing websites. There's no way I have those skills because of what I did. And that wasn't the case when God came into the picture because guys, when I started my nutrition consulting business, the idea of creating or the idea of starting a web design business came from that business because I had to create a website for that business. And then my reignition of drawing and illustration came from that business because I had to start designing things for that business for the website. So even though I deviated from my talents and all of that, God still put it back in the puzzle, if you get what me I say. So there's no such thing as redirection being trash or redirection being a failure, because there's always something to learn from your mistakes, or quote unquote failure as persons would call it. But in God's eyes, it's not failure because he's still going to give you something to learn from it. So one thing I can encourage persons to do, even if you feel like you're far off, think of all the things that you've learned in those times. What skills have you gained while you were in that season? What lesson have you learned while you were in that season? Or if you're still in it, what have you been learning? Like, don't take it as I'm so far gone, there's no way I can come back to this point. Nope, that's not life. Life lessons are a gem. Like, if you've gone through life and not learned anything, you haven't lived. If you've gone through life and not gained some sort of skill, you've not lived. I'm gonna tell you guys, like, my nutrition consulting business, if anybody don't know, or for persons who don't know me, I used to have a lot of social anxiety. Like, it would be very hard for me to speak to new persons and to just have an engaging conversation with them. For me, I be pretty okay just sitting by myself and talking to myself in my head or reading a book or something. Not saying anything is bad with reading a book, but just the mere fact that I had social anxiety when it came on to meeting new persons, that was something that was so crippling. And for my nutrition consulting business, I had to talk to persons a lot, consulting. I had to speak to a lot of new persons. The business started out with persons that I knew, but then it grew to where I knew nobody, and I had to be on phone calls with them, sometimes video calls. And that gave me a lot of confidence to start conversations with people, to truly tell myself that, look, girl, you know, I have no social anxiety. Fling with that. Fling with that. You know, I have no social anxiety. You just needed practice. You needed to start trusting that God is directing you. And trust me, guys, look at your life and think about the things that you've learned from your redirection. Look at the things that you've learned, not learned. Look at the skills that you developed from those times, and stop telling yourself that you're far gone, because that's not true. Probably you got a piece of the puzzle. You get me? Probably those redirections even brought pieces to the puzzle that God has for you. So don't think of it as failure. Can you imagine? I'm there I talk for about 10 minutes straight. 10 minutes straight and the mic dead. The mic dead. And I'm saying to myself, alright, no worries. Just go charge it and start back. So I plug it out, take a break, charge the camera, and then guess what? My neighbor them decide to start construction. So video get paused. Some say, you know what? No man, at least that. There's a next day tomorrow. God spare in my life. There's a next day tomorrow. So tomorrow come now. Guess what happened? Rain start fall. Place get dark. So there's zero lighting. I say, no sir, but the video now go up. Yeah, and that's where I am right now. So that's why I'm doing one different set of clothes. Is a whole new day. It's a whole days have passed. It's a whole new day. But anyways, let's get back to the video. Point number 3. This is, looking back at it now, it is pretty funny. Reason being, I clearly did things that I want a celebrity, and not in a cocky way, in a nervous, anxious way, because the way I did really believe that people just still gonna watch me every move. Like what? Just, if I do this, somebody's going to say something, because you're just always watching. I may not tell myself that I'm always watching them, but obviously that's the mannerism, because it is so stifling to think of to do anything, because I always constantly I say, somebody did it, I'll watch me. Girl, are you Chris Brown? Who are you? I have to clearly laugh now, because there is no way on God's earth somebody, or persons rather, were sitting down watching my every move. You see, guys, if you don't have that thought process there, think about this. You want to do something, right? But the first thing you think about is that, I can't do this because people have to chat me. This is a literal example. Somebody go up on your social media, check out your social media. Whoa, Candice, I do this today, man. Why should I do that? That's weird. Alright, next day, go back on Candice's social media. Oh, she do this still? Why should I do that? She's so weird. See me up on the road. But I know all them see me up on the road, but them find me and see me up on the road. Trap me down, paparazzi. Again, yes, it's weird. Take a picture. That Kenisa do? Why Kenisa do that? You see what me I say? Like, guys, nobody not have them kind of time there for focus or fixated by you. Nobody. Nobody. And even if somebody see we, is not the level at which we are thinking that they're seeing us, guys. Nobody, when we learn, nobody now have them time there for fixated by you. So them thoughts there for say you don't do this because people are watching you, it's only in your head. It was only in my head. As me say, nobody now have them time there. And what that did was to cripple me from doing anything at all. Because me I say, me are going to be ridiculed, people are going to laugh off of me, I'm going to stand out, and all them things there. And quite frankly, if you are a child of the King, if you are a Christian, you're going to stand out. You're supposed to stand out. If you don't stand out, something wrong. You're supposed to stand out. So that was just something that always held me back, because me I say, yo, I'm afraid to do something because I'm going to get ridiculed. And trust me, guys, once you can realize that nobody's that fixated on you like you think, it is a lot more freeing. So instead of listening to those thoughts of saying that you are the center of attention, because really and truly that's what it is. Your mind is saying that you're the center of attention, right? But we would say we are not being cocky, but that's really what it is. You're being the center of attention. Instead of listening to that voice, think about it in a way where it is so easy to think negative than to think positive. So when you're at that mindset, you have to pause. Whoa, why am I thinking like this? Are these thoughts even real? And then look at it another way too. I was so fearful of doing things because of what people would say, but them not come beat me. Them not come do nothing, and most times they not even see me. So your fear, like the fear that's being created is false. The fear that is being created is so false. And that's why the battle is so much in our minds first before it becomes a physical thing. The enemy hits our minds so hard because that scenario of somebody watching you and ridiculing you is most of the times always false. It is non-existent, right? But one of the hardest things for us to do is to think in the space of freedom, right? It is so hard for us to say, oh, but we can do this. Even if somebody is watching us, we can do this. So one of the things that I would do to help me to combat this was to really think of what it would feel like and how proud God would be of me if I did the task, whatever it is that I'm instructed to do or I believe I'm supposed to do. So I always try to think of the end scenario, like how am I going to feel? That feeling of, I did it. I achieved something. That's the feeling that I try to push forward instead of really adding fuel to that negative side of things. So try that. Yeah. Try that, guys. The next point. I'm sitting on my chair for that one here. You see this now? This ties in with the previous one. And we can be our biggest enemy at times. We always want to pre other people, but if we should really think about the thoughts that we have about ourselves, some of the most horrible things. And this is one of the roadblocks that I faced in the past. And sometimes it does come up and I do pray about it. But back then it was really hard for me to get past it. And I was just so hard on myself. I would be, for example, for those of you who don't know me, in the past I would be going to like violin lessons or practicing just on my own. And I would be so hard on myself until there was a point where there was just this traumatic response when it came on to the violin, because I was just so hard on myself, like, yo, you need to do this, you need to, oh you start practice this and you get your skills today. You're supposed to get your skills already. And I'm like, girl, there's no way you can start practice something today and get it by the end of the day. Skills worse even as a musician. I'm not talk about just get it and you kind of feel proud of yourself and you improve upon it. I mean like mastery level. I believe I'm supposed to on a master scale get it by the end of the day. What? And that's another thing to add to that was just having this level of perfectionism. Like I always had to have everything lined up straight. And because of that, I would have one of the highest standard for myself, and that caused me not to achieve anything, because as soon as I felt burnt out from my own critiques, I would just stop in my tracks. And that caused me not, as I said, that caused me not to achieve anything. So, guys, having the mindset that you need to do everything right, or whatever thought process that you may be having that is hampering you from doing what you need to do, trust me, giving yourself compassion, finding a space of love for yourself and patience is very important. You can't want to give other persons your all. You would do so much for your friends and your family, but when it comes on to you, you are such a hater. You are such a hater, I have to say it. You hate on yourself so much that yourself cannot grow. And we may want to look at other persons to blame them, but really and truly, you are the problem. I was my problem, And one of the things that God really highlighted to me was that I was so hard on myself. And another thing is that I'm not perfect. He's the only one that is perfect. So this high level of standard that I was holding myself to was impossible to fill. There was no way I could reach that level. And so really finding self-compassion and just really embracing a space of patience, creating that space for yourself is really important to achieve anything that you want to achieve. It sounds very simple, guys, but trust me, giving yourself love, finding some space to give yourself love is really important. And the way I found that was through Jesus Christ himself. I'm not going to stop here and talk about that, because trust me, I'm on a journey where freedom seems so real. It is real, but back then I didn't believe I could live like how I'm living now, with such a free space to think and to believe in myself and to just walk in the purpose that I know God called me to walk in. So yeah, you're going to hear me talk about my freedom a lot, because it feels so surreal at times. To even be on social media talking to you guys, it feels so surreal, because I've always wanted to do this, and I just tell myself that I can't do it because I didn't have the requirements for it. Can you imagine? Yeah. I'm just not like. But anywho, what I'm trying to say, you have to pause at times when you think of the things that comes to your mind. When you hear the thoughts in your head, you really have to pause. And you have to ask yourself, are these points that I'm making real? Are these points that are coming across from the enemy real? It's not real. And that's one of the mindsets that you need to accept. Like, it's not real. It's not real. You're not a failure. You're not a, what am I to say? You're not a weirdo. You're not, I don't know, none not come to my mind right now. But one of the biggest ones is you're not a failure, right? You need to be telling yourself that. And one of the things that I did was to really pray about it. I really prayed about it. I started off with God, just help me. Some of the smallest prayers, God just helped me. And eventually I could talk about it more and more in detail to really release it. So yeah. And the last step, well, not the last step, the last point, that I want to make for this video, embrace the learning curve. And I'm in this path right now. I'm on this journey. Not saying I have all the rest of them figured out, Not saying that. But this right now is like at the forefront because I keep on have to tell myself that, Candice, you are still learning how to run a business. You're still learning how to draw. You're still learning to do web design. You're still learning how to do web development. You're still learning to do so many things. You're not going to get it right the first time. Just continue. Work, and work on it even more. And I have said that to myself so many times because it's so easy for me to fall back into the space of, I need to get everything right, ducks in a row, all of that. And yeah, I don't want to go back there. So I really have to regulate my emotions and really pause a lot of the times to say that, why are you thinking like this? No, we're not doing that. You know what? We're going to pause. We're going to pray. We're going to talk to God about this because I don't want them feelings to come back. So guys, whatever it is you're deciding to do, there's going to be a period of time where you're going to have to learn that new skill or add on to that skill. So there's never a time where you have everything right. You're always learning. We will always be learning because what? We are not perfect. Only one smarty is perfect, right? And God himself. So when it comes to embracing the learning curve, we have to take things in a state of milestones. So you know that, all right, for me, I'm learning how to draw now. And as much as I would want to do a self-portrait and just have everything, the shadings right, and, eyes matching, the two eyes are matching and the ears are matching and all them stuff there going on. I know some probably have to start with some stick man and some shapes before me get there. So I have to understand say it takes time. So my first milestone, getting to know my shapes. Second, probably being shading, knowing how the light may hit a particular object and how to shine it and all of them stuff there. I don't know the technical words to them, but yeah, milestones. You have to take your time in realizing that it will be a journey in whatever you decide to do. It will be a journey. You won't get it right off the bat. Our brains won't be like that. There are some gifted persons out there, but a majority of us are not like that. So we have to understand that it takes time. It takes time. Be patient with yourself. It takes time. And then the next thing is to enjoy the process as it comes. So whatever hurdle, whatever exciting moment that may come in the journey, enjoy each of them because all mistakes is AKA a lesson, right? They're all lessons. And every high moment is a moment to be achieved. So for me, when I'm learning to draw, when I start drawing, if I do something, for example, I'm drawing the eye and there's a part of it that don't look like the instructor, I have to look now, repeat the lesson, repeat the video and say, whoa, him did do this, I never did catch that. Then I go back over and do that part. But now I beat up on myself anymore if I say, yo, you should I get it? Why you never get it? You watch the video already. You should I get it? Mm-mm. Me I go regulate my emotions. Tell myself, say, yo, you have time. That's the next point. You have time to figure it out. You have time. God don't work with disorganization. You have time to figure it out. If you believe you're on a path and you have to get it right now and things are just messy, and think about it. Are you on the path that God called you to be on? God doesn't work in mess. He doesn't work in mess. So that's our next point. He doesn't work in mess. So there's no way you're called on a journey and it's awfully mucky. Every step you take it mucky. And that's how the big man work. So, as I say, be patient with yourself and embrace each way of the journey or each point of the journey, because the end result will be something so beautiful and you'll be more than proud of yourself that you went through it and you did what you were supposed to do. So embrace it and give yourself a pat on the back and tell yourself, say, yo, we have another day, let's do this, let's take on what we're supposed to take on. Yeah. And that is the end of the video. 2 things I want to leave you with. Number 1, give yourself grace. Be patient with yourself. And number 2, pray. Learn to just have this sense of communication where you relate everything to God. Pray about it. If you're struggling with the points that are listed out earlier, pray about it. If those aren't your issues and you have others, pray about it. Just pray about it. Talk to God about it. It doesn't have to be the most eloquent prayer. It could just be, God, help me with this. God, help me with that. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.